Discovering the Waterfront is very maturely written. Who did the majority of the writing, and how old were you guys when you put that album together?
Yeah, when Discovering the Waterfront came out as our second album, and I was 24, I guess, when we recorded it. And you know, I'm the oldest guy in the band, so I was always kind of the, like, I guess the leader when it came to the vision and the direction of what we were doing. That album especially, I did a lot of the writing on. Early on, I was kind of more of a control freak, and over the years, I've sort of let things go a little bit more, and to where I'd say on the new album, I actually wrote quite a bit less than usual. I'd say, usually I write 4 or 5 songs. On the new album, I only wrote like 3. So, it's, yeah, so I'm okay with relinquishing some control in my old age.
And there was no break between finishing that album and heading out on tour.
Yeah, I mean, back in those days, we were touring all the time, and we pretty much still are. But I mean, back then it was even crazier. We would just jump in the van and we would just be like, to our booking agent, we'd just be like, put us on the road, like we'll play anywhere. And it was crazy back then, like 2005, we had to finish the album quickly because we had a tour with Fall Out Boy right after the album was recorded, which is funny now because Fall Out Boy back then wasn't really that big yet. But so yeah, so we finished the album quickly so we could do that tour, and then we were on the Warped Tour, and the rest of 2005 was crazy, and the rest of 2006 was crazy. So we really just, back then it was all about touring, and really nothing's changed.
At what point did you realize the album was taking off?
It's a great question. I think when we finished recording the record, we knew we had something special. It was just a matter of, figuring out, we were finally like getting better tours. We were finally, people were talking about our band on the internet, and stuff like that was all sort of starting to happen. So, so I'm not really sure. I mean, I think that summer when we did Warped Tour, just before the album came out, when we were playing some of the new songs, we were playing Smile in Your Sleep, for example, before the album came out, and it was getting an amazing reaction, which was really crazy to have, people never heard this song before and they're going crazy for it. So I think that's when we knew something was really special with the album. But I'd say it wasn't until quite a bit later, like after the record had come out, we had the big first week, and then later on in 2006, that's when we knew that the album was like really sticking with people.
What do you enjoy more, creating your music in the studio or touring your creations to show the world?
I think I like both, man. Like, to be honest, when you've been holed up in the studio for months and months, it feels great to get back out on tour. And then when you've been on tour for 2 years, it feels nice to get back in the studio and work on other stuff. So you can't have one without the other, I feel. So it's just really nice to have that, that interplay between the two.
Would it be right to say the new album is all about reflection? It seems like the new songs represent your whole musical journey together as a band.
Yeah, I'd say that's very fair. I mean, the new record's a lot more personal. The last record, we did, This Is How the Wind Shifts, was more like a collection of short stories almost. It was more like taken from other people's perspectives, where this album is like really from me. It's my story I'm telling. So it's absolutely about the last 15 years of being a band and reflecting back on all that stuff. So it's absolutely kind of talking about the journey we've made that brought us here today.
Can you tell us about a few of the advantages of living out of the studio while you're recording?
Yeah, the great thing about this last record is I mean, we didn't live right in the studio, but the studio was literally in my neighborhood to where I could walk to the studio in 5 minutes. So the amount of time saved driving, like the last record was like a 45-minute drive each way every day. So this time it was great to just have it be right there, and you could literally walk down the street and really have a lot of time just there, and I could go home for lunch and things like that seem like maybe not a big deal when you're working on a record for 2 months actually really do matter. So it was great. It was great for us and for the recording process, and I think we were really comfortable doing the record right in my neighborhood in Toronto. So
Are there any differences between how you approached music 10 years ago to how you approach music now?
I think so. At any point in your life, a 10-year period is a big difference. You look at the time when you're 15 to when you're 25, or in this case from 24 to 34. I've grown up a lot. I've changed a lot. So a lot of things that I cared about 10 years ago, maybe I don't really care about anymore, and vice versa, right? So I've grown as a person, and musically that happens as well. And there's always a little bit of youth energy and excitement that goes in like all the bands that I loved 10 years ago or in my youth, that I still love. But it's more about loving them based on the nostalgia and based on the memories of that.
Can you please tell us one of your favorite Silverstein memories?
My favorite Silverstein memory, that's a hard one. I mean, you put me on the spot. It's like 15 years of every day for the last 15 years just coming back and trying to remember one. That's really tough, man. But I'd say like one of my favorite memories was when we did the Warped Tour in 2004, our first Warped Tour. And I got to hang out with like NoFX, was like my favorite band, and played poker with them. And that was like a time when it was like, holy shit, like this is crazy. My real dream come true has kind of come full circle, and now I'm hanging out with my favorite band, when I was a kid, and I'm on the Warped Tour, and this is just crazy. So I'd say that's one of very many.
Are there any plans for what will happen after you tour the new album?
Yeah, after we tour this album, I mean, we got a long road. I mean, we were gonna do all kinds of stuff this year, Warped Tour. We're doing, more touring in Europe later in the year. We got a whole bunch of music videos coming out, so we're really busy, and we're just gonna keep trucking, and we feel really strong about this album. It's one of our best albums, if not our best. And to be able to say that, honestly, 15 years into our career is a great feeling. So we're just gonna keep it going. We're having fun. It's the best.
Brisbane, you guys feeling good?